Hello everyone. Let's talk about operating system function calls. Before I do that, let me do a quick quiz. We have used the OS module somewhere before. Are you able to recall why we used the OS module previously? Go ahead and pause the lecture video here and write your answer as a comment in the comment section. So if you were thinking about command line argument processing, then you had the correct answer to my question over here. How did we deal with command line argument processing? We use a special list called argv inside the OS module, which keeps track of all the arguments that you pass while running your Python script. So the very first entry in your argv list is always going to be the name of your script file itself, and the remaining arguments will be the actual arguments that you're passing while running your program. Let's go through a few other functions inside the OS module which are really useful and helpful. Why are we dealing with OS module when dealing with the file processing? That's because file system is very closely associated with operating system. That's why all of these functions have been included in the OS module. Recall that so far we have been using a lot of bash commands in either our terminal or in our PowerShell. Examples of bash commands would be ls command for listing and cd command for changing directory, mkdir command for creating a new directory, and so on. Wouldn't it be nice if we can do all of those bash commands inside your Python program? Why is that helpful? Imagine that you want to create a custom data set and you want to create a folder structure for it. So it would be very helpful for you to be able to run the mkdir command inside your Python program and create such a hierarchy of folders, and then finally open files and write content to it inside each of the folders that you want to create content inside. Let's go through each of these functions with an example. The listdir function clearly is similar to the ls command in bash. Recall that you'll have to first of all import the OS module, and since we use the import OS format, I'm going to have to say os.listdir to call that particular function. The other way to do the import would be to say from os import listdir. Since we are going to cover many example functions, I'm going to prefer to use the import way. In fact, I always prefer to use the import way because it makes it very clear to somebody else who's reading your program that listdir function is part of the OS module. So let's talk about the listdir function. It takes one argument, which is going to be the relative path to the directory where you want to run your listdir, which is going to do an ls. For example, recall that the dot directory represents current working directory. So if I just say os.listdir of dot where my current working directory is demo, then I'm going to get a list of strings where each string is a file name or a directory name. Recall that if you use double dot, that represents the parent directory of your current working directory. So if I say os.listdir of double dot, I'm at least going to get one entry for demo and maybe a bunch of other files and directories. So if I want to list all the files inside the data directory, I'll have to say os.listdir of data. And you will again get a list of files when you do that. Let's talk about the mkdir function. It should be very obvious which command is associated with this particular function. So when I say os.mkdir of test, it's going to create a test directory inside my current working directory. And my current working directory is given by whatever directory my Python program is inside. I'm going to assume that all of this code is either run using interactive mode in the demo directory or inside main.py over here. Let's talk about the exists function call. You might be able to guess what exactly this function call over here does. It's going to check whether a particular file or a directory exists, and it's going to return a Boolean value for you. If I check if os.path.exists of file.txt, that's going to return a value of true for me. So if I am going to check if haha.txt exists in the same path, that's going to return a value of false. That's because there is no haha.txt file inside my demo folder. Notice that the exist function is being called by mentioning os.path.exist. So that's going to be a submodule inside the OS module. So you'll have to say os.paths.exist instead of saying os.exist. What if we want to check whether one of the files or directories which exist in a particular directory is a file or not? We are going to be able to use the sfile function for that, and that's again going to return a Boolean value. So if you check if os.path.sfile of haha.txt, that's going to give you a value of false, because first of all, haha.txt doesn't exist. So clearly I can't tell whether it's a file or not. If you check the same function call by passing file.txt as argument, you're going to get true. If you check the function call by passing data as an argument, you're again going to get a value of false. That's because data is a directory and not a file. And the dar function is the corresponding function to check whether a particular file or a folder, directory is a directory or not. So when I run it by passing data as argument here, I'm going to get a value of true. And if I pass file.txt as argument to os.path.sdar, I'm going to get a return value of false. Let's talk about this last function call, which is a really important function call. So the os.path.join function enables you to join various parts of your relative path without having an impact on the forward slash or backward slash usage. So the os.path.join function is going to automatically check whether you're on Windows platform or on Mac platform or on Linux platform, and accordingly it's going to add either a forward slash or a backward slash. So you will use a forward slash for Mac and Linux, and you'll use a backward slash for Windows, correct? So if you call this function on a Mac, you're going to get data forward slash movies.csv. Notice that you have to pass multiple arguments to the join function call. You should at least have two arguments because you're trying to join two different directory in your hierarchy level in order to generate a relative path. In this example, the first value is a directory and the second value is a file. You can imagine having multiple parameters where you have a directory inside a directory which is contained inside another directory, and then finally you have some file over here. So what will happen when you run this function on Windows? You're going to get data backward slash movies.csv instead. This is a really important function for you to learn for project P10. The reason for that is because you're going to have to use the os.path.join function instead of using the regular string join. The regular string join just takes the join value, which is going to be either a forward slash or a backward slash, and it will just generate the path for you, right? So when you do this, your code will run on your Windows laptop, for example. But if I take your code and try to run it on the test Linux environment where TAs run the code, your code is going to fail because you've hard coded the usage of your backslash over here. So you always need to make sure that you're using os.path.join function call. All right, I'll wrap up this video here. In the next video, let's talk about file exceptions.